In this lighting, it's just making me realize how badly I need to shave. So I'm gonna do that. In the meantime, though, I'll be watching episode 6 for Ahsoka. This episode is 49 minutes long. I remember part 5 ended in like a bit of a cliffhanger sort of thing, but it was like a healthy cliffhanger, I guess is what I'll say. It left me wanting more, as opposed to me hating that it left off like that. So I'm interested to see what happens for episode 6. I I remember reading a spoiler of some kind, but it was like a retcon of something. I don't know. I read it off of like Google News, like when you have like an iPhone and you swipe and then it just brings you up to Google and they bring up headlines. So I know there's apparently some kind of retcon here, but we'll see what it is. Maybe I could point it out. Anyway, episode 6 coming up. Okay, 14 minutes in so far. A couple things to note. First off, I don't remember the exact words or anything like that, or an exact quote, but I always felt like it was the Night Sisters of Dathomir were just extinct by the end of the Clone Wars, right? And this would be around this time. But I guess there's just some alive. So I don't know if that's the retcon or anything like that. But if it is, I could care less. The reality is I never cared for the Night Sisters of Dathomir. I never did. And I get that maybe that's wrong just because like they could be an interesting storyline, but I've never cared. You know what I mean? There's like 20 million things to care about in the Star Wars universe. That's not one of them. You know what I mean? That's like the 200th. This whole idea of Sabine constantly pointing out to Balin that we had a deal, we had a deal. I don't. I mean, what I'm hoping for is that she's just playing it up because there's no way in hell that she actually believed for a second that he would actually honor that deal. You know what I mean? I feel like she's smarter than that. That character should be smarter than that. Even if it is for Ezra. Like, I don't understand why that's a thing. And then we get to Balin, I think his name is the big bad guy Sith, or Inquisitor, or whatever the fuck he is. I don't even know anymore. But he starts talking about how he wants to end the cycle of like everything repeating over and over again and again and again. I just want to point something out. Motherfucker, you are not as cool as Kreia. The fact that you are following her ideology kind of pisses me off, actually. One, you barely know how to hold a fight with a sword. Two, you haven't done anything threatening this entire series. And the only reason why you had something threatening was because Ahsoka decided to fight with one sword instead of two, and you've just been doing nothing but being Thrawn's lackey, who I still maintain is one of the most threatening villains in this damn series. And three, and this is by far the most important, you're not as cool as Kreia. Whatever. I guess it was only a matter of time before like that entire ideology actually made its way into the main canon, as opposed to just the extended canon that KOTOR is. Which now that I think about it, I don't even know if like KOTOR is considered main canon or extended canon anymore. I mean, they referenced it sort of in Andor, based off a mineral. I don't know if they're actually bringing back the Old Republic style, but yeah. Well, on the one hand, I appreciate the fact that Freia's ideology is actually being mentioned here, and I'm really hoping that he does turn into like some kind of like badass, underhanded, shady Sith, because God forbid he's actually interesting now. But yeah, as it stands, I also don't want it to be this character so far, just because I don't care about him. Like anytime like him or his Sith apprentice is on the screen, it's like, oh, I guess they're back. It's not like, oh no, they're back, or all right, they're back. It's just, we'll see if that changes. I'm only 14 minutes in. Hopefully something interesting happens. And I just got to the scene that just absolutely proved my point. That was one of the most badass intros to a villain I've ever seen in a while. That was Bond villain type intro. Motherfucker came in with a fucking not jury rig, but like fucking self-repaired Star Destroyer with a self-repaired army and shit like that. Motherfucker came in and was like, of course. What were we expecting? Jesus Christ. Do you see what I mean when I say that no other villain's like really interesting? These idiots look like freaking children as opposed to that guy. You know what I mean? I like that intro. That was great. 40 minutes in. Ezra Bridger in the flesh. one of the more important characters to actually show up in this series, because, you know, who cares about Shin or Balin? Oh god. I'm really hoping that, you know, at this point, I could care less about Shin. I feel like she's just gonna be cannon fodder at this point. As for Balin, like, I want to care about him because he has the ideology of Freya, but if they just end up killing him off, then that was such a fucking waste of dialogue. You know what I mean? Anyway, Ezra looks good. We reached the end of episode 6. So this episode wasn't as interesting as episode 5 to me. That being said, unlike episode 5, this episode actually progressed the story a little bit. We see the entrance of Thrawn, a badass entrance it was. We see the return of Ezra Bridger, very heartwarming. Ahsoka really didn't appear in this episode at all, which reminds me, she's named, the series is named after her, right? So hopefully we should get to see some badass moments for her in the episodes 7 and 8. Choreography in this episode was really great. That fight scene where she's facing off against hunters, Sabine is facing off against hunters, that was great. You know, the choreography on this show, I think Hollywood could stand to learn a thing or two from this. Because I mean, I just think of like all the stupid Hollywood fight scenes I've seen, and then this one just kind of trumps all of them. So, I mean, most of the fight scenes in this trump all of them, but that's beside the point. I'm still enjoying this story. You know it's a good story when I'm like thinking, okay, what could happen next? As opposed to not really caring too much about what happens next. And you know, I could think of a lot of possibilities. I could think of them, the heroes, winning. I could think of them like not being able to catch Thrawn and Thrawn gets away and then he eventually starts off the First Order or something like that. Which, if Thrawn of all people is backed by the Night Sisters, I could definitely see him getting away. You know what I mean? As for things I want to see, I do want to see Ahsoka being like the reason that Thrawn doesn't escape, or one of the main reasons why she stops Thrawn or something like that. I just want her to see, I want her to be like a big part of what's going to happen next, which I believe she will be. I mean, the series is named after her. There's no reason why they wouldn't let something like that happen. I also do want to see the reuniting of Ezra Bridger and Hera Syndulla. You know what I mean? If anything, some of the stuff that Sabine's done in this series, I could believe Hera doing it. Sabine, I'm a little iffy, but Hera doing some of this reckless stuff, I could see her doing it. Even though she is a general. But yeah, I also want to see the meeting of Ezra Bridger and Jacen Syndulla. I'm liking this. I want to see it end, you know what I mean? Which I find good in the story. Like, if it's building up and then the climax is coming up, I'm liking it. That being said, this ending, I mean, I praised the last episode's ending because it made me want more. This one does the same thing. It's making me want more. But it's starting to do the freaking Moribito syndrome, where it's like it ends it right at the apex of like the action or the story, and then it just cuts it, so there's a new episode. I'm okay when they do it once or twice, but if it starts doing it continuously, Dragon Ball style, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. So I mean, but that's the reason I'm pointing it out, just because there's only 2 episodes left. I can very well see the next episode ending in a cliffhanger, so I might as well just mentally prepare myself now. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully the heroes come out on top, because the idea of the First Order starting, I don't want to see that. It pisses me off. Not because of anything like wrong with like the lore or anything like that, but the First Order is just evil. You know what I mean? So hopefully they get Thrawn. Anyway, episode 6, decent episode, better than episode 4, I think is what it was. So far I think my favorite episode is still episode 5. We'll see what happens at episode 7. See you guys then.